much. You see, ladies, she wants us to dance again. I just want to say thank you so much for being here, ladies. And Michael, I am so excited. Today is the last day. But these people that ask me, Sanet, why are you not going to do a play date? So we're actually going to arrange a play date. And Dolly, I think you were the only one, and Dolly that have, and Mandy. Mandy, remember our play date? We just have a dance and we played, and you bring your funny glasses and anything that's funny. And we just have an hour of dancing and putting on glasses. So I'm going to arrange that for us. It was such fun. We even played Ring of Roses. Remember, Dolly? And we played musical chairs on Zoom. So nobody can say we cannot do it. You can do anything you put your mind to it. So I'm teaching my grandson, Zayden, he's 2.5. I can do it. I can do it. I can do anything I put my mind to it. Just do it. Just do it. And now you must see he can do everything. Because when I got here, he told me, I cannot do it. I cannot, Oma. I cannot, Oma. Now he tells me I can do anything. I love him. My beautiful ladies and Michael, today is such an honor for me because this is our last session, Inspiration. And I have asked Valda, I think in January already, Valda. And remember, your program was so full. And we agreed to this time, still when I was still in America, that she will come, that she will come and talk to us. And of course, guys, come, here's my grandson, Sander. And then and then Michael. Well, Michael is my favorite because Michael have helped me do my speech. He was my speech coach. And was it not for Michael, one of my coaches, I think the 8th of January when I was on stage, I would have stumbled, and I didn't. I was swinging and telling my story because of what experience I had in December 2020. So if I can all give it all to Michael and say, thank you, Michael, for inspiring us. You were here with our first session, and now you're here with our last session. I really, really appreciate you. So, Michael, I'm going to give it all over to you. Inspire us.
It is said that when God created man, he combined the waters and dust of the earth to make clay. And from that clay, he created man. But man, which is just clay, is just clay. Now, I've been in Italy. I've been in Venice. I've been in places upon places where the statues are beautiful and they fill my heart with joy. But they don't move. They don't change the world. And although they bring people smiles, which is important, there's a very great limit to how much of a better place they can make the world. And a mere man of clay does not do anything. Now, Jewish mythology talks about the golem, where the wise and learned men put a signal on top of a clay statue, and the statue walks, quiet, robotic, doing exactly what it's been told to do. No changes, no improvements, no creation of joy and power. But that's not where God left man. God breathed his own air into man, the breath of life. And the word inspiration in English literally means the breath of life. And with that breath, he created not a beautiful static statue, not a robotic, unfeeling, but cooperative, golem. But man, someone capable of doing something great, someone capable of helping others on their own merit, someone capable of thinking and improving the world. Now I say to each of you, ask yourself what you want to be. Do you want to be pretty statue, doing exactly what you were originally made to do and not moving? Or a mere cooperative, following the rules, doing exactly what you've been told to do, but making no fundamental, independent change and improvement of the world? Or do you want to be inspired? Do you want to take that breath and make something of it and take something to the world? I suggest to you, you want to be inspired. So when you feel that inspiration, breathe deep and let it move you, let it empower you, let it create you. Become more than just what you're supposed to be. Become more than just decorative. Become a fully inspired human being. Now, every one of you knows that if you breathe deep and hold it, eventually the air will change to carbon dioxide and you'll have to expel it. You can't just hold into that air. You can't just hold onto the inspiration. You need to let it out and breathe in new inspiration. And that means you become more and better and can do more things. Inspiration isn't an accident, and it's not a one-time thing. It's something that fully creates who you are and gives you a chance to create and make the world something better. Whether that inspiration is art, or the raising of a child, or the setting of any one of a number of things. So breathe deep with the inspiration and let it happen. And breathe out and breathe in a new one. But I want to take you a little further than that. Now, let's be honest. Sometimes we're in environments where we breathe in smoke or noxious fumes. It's not always good when you breathe in. But don't let that scare you. Walk out to a place where the air is cleaner, where the ideas are fresher, and breathe in new air, better air. Don't get trapped by one inspiration. Get a multitude of them. And lastly, remember that there are others out there. Now, medical people will talk about mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. When someone can't get the air they need, and you give them your air, you inspire them, you give them life. Sanet, right now, you're in New Zealand to breathe that good and inspiring air into your children and your grandchildren. And I say to each of you, don't just hold the air for yourself. Use it to make others better and stronger. Share this and share the world. When the Lord said, be fruitful and multiply, he wasn't just talking about physical numbers of bodies walking the earth. He was talking about ideas. He was talking about goodness. He was talking about creation. He was talking about all of the things which we can do because we had that divine inspiration. So share that inspiration with others. Find it for yourself and for others, and to make the world a better place. Don't let someone tell you, this is what you're supposed to do and be. And tell them you shouldn't be inspired, you should. Don't let someone tell you, you just need to be pretty, or you just need to be whatever. You're so much more than that. And that's why God breathed air, breathed life into each and every one of us. So breathe that air, breathe deep, breathe it for as long as is appropriate. So many people here would say, take a deep breath and hold it for about count of 10. And no. Take a breath and enjoy it for what it is worth. Use it, make it good, then breathe out and look for your next inspiration, the next great thing you can do. So, my friends, I leave you, and I hope I leave you breathless, but more importantly, I hope I leave you breathing. Sanet?
Wow, it was beautiful. Thank you, my beautiful Michael. Ladies, any questions for Michael? Jy nie 'n vraag nie? Okay, he doesn't have a question. Thank you, my beautiful Michael. That was such an inspiration. I was wondering, what are you going to tell us? And it was beautiful. I love it. And every time I'm breathing, I will remember to be inspired and be inspiring towards other people. Thank you so much. So, ladies, our 5 minutes, lady cannot be here. She doesn't feel good. So I think what we can do, if you permit me, I will not play a song in between because I'd rather stop it before the recording. So Valda, if it's possible, if I can ask you then to continue. And then I just want to say, I met Valda last year in May when I joined the Speaker Speak Live. And Valda, the way that you always were talking and the way that you were looking into the camera, you actually inspired me so much. And I used to call you my dame. And that's a UK word for, I think, an elite lady or a royal lady. I'm not too sure. Mandy, you will be able to help me with that. But I just want to say, Dame Valda, thank you so much for inspiring us, or for me. And I know that you're going to inspire all of us. Thank you so much. If I can hand it all over to you.
Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here, to have the opportunity to speak to all of you. I feel blessed and inspired today. I'll tell you a little bit about my life and why I talk about living out loud. It comes from people constantly telling me that I needed to live quietly, to sit down, to be still, to sit in a corner, to do something else besides live out loud. I was born at a time when women were not expected to do anything except to be that rib pulled from Adam, to be the helpmeet. And I still believe that the helpmeet is a great, great position. However, because of the way of the world, today women have bigger expectations for themselves, and the world has greater expectations of them. Though sometimes there are limitations placed on what you can and cannot do, but that limitation ultimately rests in your mind, in your heart, in your soul. I was born the middle child of a lot of bad children. Of course, not me. I was good, perfectly good. My spirit person was Scheherazade. How many of you know the story of Scheherazade? Hand raise. Scheherazade was a woman who was looking at, it looks like everyone knows Scheherazade. But the quick story for those who might not really know it is that Scheherazade's responsibility was to tell a story in order to save her life. She had to do it every day in order to keep the Sultan from putting her to death. And in the end, after a year of telling him stories and leaving him with a cliffhanger so that in the morning he wanted to know the rest of the story, he came to know that not only was she beautiful, but she was wise, that what she had to say was worth saying, and he wanted to hear more. So she went from being a possible consort, one of many in a harem, to being his most beloved person. I picked up that story when I grew up between two aggressive sets of bad children, because I had to tell stories. I had to keep them at bay. There was always some reason why being 5 years in on either side was a bad place to be. My elder brother and sister were a year and a half apart. My younger brother and sister were a year and a half apart. They were teens. I was that other one. Too young to be with the one set, too old to be with the other set. But it gave me a perfect place to learn how to live out loud, because I had to speak, I had to use my voice. And later in life, I became a negotiator, a mediator. I took special courses to be able to negotiate, whether it was in a refugee camp or at a boardroom table. So if you're the one now who feels like you're squeezed between two aggressive sets of something, whether it's work and home, whether it's children and lover, whatever the case might be, this is the time to use those skills. Read the story of Scheherazade. Let her be the one who inspires you. Early in life, I was told, don't bother to go to college. Just finish up school and go to work in a factory, because there won't be much for you to do later. There was no money in the house for college. And so my out was to marry a Marine. Hoorah, as they say. It was the worst experience of my life because I was a whole 17 years old. Ooh, could have been that silly, but it was my escape from those two sets of siblings, but an escape into something that was not better. However, the inspiration comes because even though he was not the kindest, gentlest person, except to get me, he wasn't interested in the keeping of me because he assumed that it would happen regardless. But because I had learned how to live between two hard places, I learned that the best place for me was away from him. But that left me as a single parent of two children with no skills, no education, and no money. Fortunately, my sister found me a job working as a nursing assistant at the hospital, and I did rise up, because if you rise where you're planted, if you grow from the darkest place, the best mushrooms come from the darkest places. Diamonds come from deep inside the earth in dark places. So even if your life is dark, you can find the thing that works for you, whether it is the pressure pushing down or you reaching towards the light. Live out loud. Don't let people tell you what you cannot do because they want to. They will keep your light tucked deep down if you allow it. I became a nursing assistant. I did shine enough that they offered me a scholarship for nursing school. I wasn't able to go right away because my younger son was very ill. But later I went to nursing school as much as anything because I didn't understand what those healthcare people were talking about when I was trying to understand what was going on with my son. And being a nurse helped me understand the language, the lexicon, and allowed me to once again speak out loud and ultimately live out loud. Even though I went to nursing school, even though I had a very good job for the time and the money seemed reasonable, I was paying off student loans, I was paying off hospital bills, because in the United States, unfortunately, we have some of the best doctors in the world and some of the worst systems in the world, where you are more likely to go bankrupt from medical bills than any other reason, which is ridiculous, but it is my reality. So one night when I was working in a hospital at night in the burn unit. Yes, the burn unit. There's a whole other story about how I got to be in what most nurses consider to be the toughest job in the healthcare profession. But I was sitting there in the middle of the night trying to catch up on my notes after doing the tough work of getting burn patients better. And I got a phone call. And this was from a recruiter. Someone asking if I was willing to go to work in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia? If you know the geography of the United States, I live in North Carolina. So if you know where Washington, D.C. is and Florida is, and I'm in the middle. So they said to me, are you willing to go to Saudi Arabia? They gave me the many benefits of being there. And I said, Saudi Arabia? I can't go to Saudi Arabia. I haven't been to South Carolina yet. That's just the next state down. I was po. You understand po? Not poor, but po. Can't even afford the last two letters. I thought about it and I thought about it. And I reckoned that I would not be able to do it. But when I sat down and thought about the fact that I was working 2.5 jobs trying to support my kids in order not to live in an abusive and horrific situation, my sister called the very next day to say that they were stationed in Germany in a beautiful place, and could my son come to stay with her? Because the opportunities were better, because he would be able to do things instead of going to the library down the street. They would travel to Europe. They would ski in Switzerland. They would go to the Louvre, all the places that little poor people never did and never expected to do. That was my opportunity when my sister became the caregiver, because it was an inspiration from her, or probably better yet, knowing her baby sister and understanding that I was squeezed once again, getting into a very dark place, just trying to manage. So when she became the caregiver, I had the opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia. My main goal was to go and make enough money to become a nurse anesthetist. As a registered nurse, I was making decent money, but as a nurse anesthetist, I felt it would be a lot easier than scrubbing people who were burned to be able to put people to sleep in the OR. The necessity from the college that I applied to was that I would have to be able to demonstrate that I would not have to work for 2 full years because the course was that difficult. Now I'm struggling as it is with 2.5 jobs working my regular thing. And now I'm supposed to go 2 years without working, but that was my goal when I went to Saudi Arabia. When I got there, I worked with people from 32 different countries. People were always saying to me, how can you live in Saudi Arabia? How can you be in a different place that's different for attitudes of women, attitudes of religion? Don't you have to be quiet all the time? They actually feared for me because they knew that quiet was not a part of my lexicon. But I told them that I was a necessary evil, number one. I learned how to be a true minority because I was the only person who looked like me out of 1,700 people. But what I found most of all is that people all over the world have the same needs, wants, and desires. They need to live free. They want their children to have better lives than they do. And they want to have the capacity to grow, to live, and to love. When I came back, people asked me, how did you do it? How did you work it out? How were you able to have safe, effective, efficient care in a place like Saudi Arabia? Accidentally, I became a speaker. As people asked me over and over, how did you do it? How did it work? I learned in time to stop just telling about myself and tell about what happened, why it happened, the moral of the story, all of those things that make listening a better experience. So I became a person who, instead of worrying about every dollar, instead of paying attention to people who told me to sit down in the corner and be quiet, there were people who were saying to me, stand up and talk. How about that? Learning to live out loud helped me to do this. Whenever an opportunity showed up, I took it. I said yes and figured it out later. I have ended up in 57 countries on 6 continents around the world, coming from a little girl who had no money for anything. When I was in nursing school, I would have to decide if I would have money for gas to get to school or money for food to eat for lunch. It's been a long journey, but a beautiful one. And what can I say to you? When you're living out loud, it is the opportunity to live with zest, but also to not be afraid of being vulnerable. Your host is a person who talks about her vulnerability, the changes in her life that brought her to now, the changes that help you move from a person who may be afraid and down and deep and covering up your own light, and instead helping you to get to that point where you are living out loud. Vulnerability is not a bad thing. Vulnerability allowed me to ask people about themselves rather than telling them about themselves. Have you ever met people who come from a different place who tell you what they know about where you are? I imagine, Sanet, that there are people who tell you about South Africa as compared to asking you about the situations. I had the energy and the training from my grandmother to ask people about themselves, to ask how things happen. And this was great training for me when I was in Saudi Arabia, because the main thing that was there was you could do just about anything you wanted except hang out with men who were not your husband. Shame. Or you could do anything except preach your gospel. So one day, a woman in the dialysis unit. So if you know anything about dialysis, when your kidneys fail, then you are attached to a machine for up to 4 hours at a time. And this woman had been coming in over and over and over again. So I got to know her. And one day she said, "Inti Islam?" She asked me if I was a Muslim. And my face probably showed a little bit of concern because I was wondering what the penalty would be for giving the wrong answer. And so I said, no, but why? In between my 3 different courses in Arabic that didn't seem to stick very well as my Southern accent that might have changed some words into something else if I wasn't careful about how I talked. But having interpreters who could help, I said, "Why do you want to know?" And she said, "My husband is looking for a second wife, and I thought you would be a good candidate." What? Are you kidding me? I already had one crazy husband, and now you want me to be the second wife? She says, "Well, you look like you would have strong sons." Yeah, accurate. But still, through an interpreter, I said, I cannot imagine being the second wife and then potentially being one of 4 wives. And she said, "Silly Americans. You're under the impression that you have your husband to yourself, but your divorce rate tells us otherwise." Well, the girl was telling the truth. Then she explained to me that being a second wife meant with her family that I would have my own driver, my own cook, my own nanny, and I would have my own money. As compared to, she said, you are 10,000 miles away from home working every time I come in here. Okay. So instead of me telling her the bad about her life, I started to listen. We became fast friends. I never became the second wife, though there are times that I wish I would have. I have to say, she was living large. Oh, yeah. But the point is to take the chance to ask the question, to not automatically reject the proposition because it is foreign to you. When I was asked to determine how to do a better job working with refugees in Nebraska, My answer when they'd ask, why do they treat us this way, coming from the refugees? My answer was, I don't know. And when the doctors would say, why do those refugees act like that? My answer was, I don't know. These were people from sub-Saharan Africa. They were from Southern Sudan. And they had been placed into Omaha, Nebraska. I can't think of a more ridiculous placement, except it worked out. And there were 10,000 of them. From the 1,000 who were originally brought there, people kept coming because of the agricultural community and their knowledge of it. And then, of course, having people there. But what I did when I was tasked to do this, and I knew I didn't know, I asked, can I go to some refugee camps? Can I have the opportunity to know somewhat of the experiences they are having so that I will be able to interpret to the ones around here what is going on? That started me on my journey where I had the opportunity to work in refugee camps around the world, in Ghana, Sierra Leone, Togo, and in Sri Lanka after the tsunami of 2004. I spent years in and out of refugee camps, developing programs and replicating them through the funding of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Nothing I ever thought I would do, nothing I ever planned to do, but the opportunity presented itself. And my ability to say yes and figure it out later has allowed me to know people from all over the world and to give of myself and to learn from them, not to teach them, but to learn from them, because my life has been enriched by those opportunities to say yes and to move forward. Living out loud means I didn't know what I was doing. I made a lot of mistakes, but I'd learned to say in advance, when, not if, when I say things, do things, or act in such a way that it is offensive to you, you have my permission and my need for you to tell me so that I may change it, correct it, and keep others from doing the same. I hope that you will always live your life out loud. It doesn't matter if you start in a place where you're crushed down, it's dark and it's hard. You can be the catalyst to get yourself out of that situation. You are surrounding yourself with people who are about doing better, about living life, about having fun, about having play dates. What could be better? It is my joy to be here with you today. And I challenge you to think about ways that you will live your life out loud. And that 6 months from now, you will tell me how the opportunity arose and you said yes and figured it out later. Back to you.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. When you were talking about that, I thought, I want to be a TV host, but I'm so scared. I'm starting my first show on the 15th of January. I am so scared, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yes, yes.
Oh, wow. Can I ask if I can just go, if I can ask Julie, how was the session for you?
It was very good. I have always had the pleasure of hearing Dr. Michael and Valda before, and so I'm so glad to hear them again. Thank you so much.
Wow. And is there any inspirational word or inspirational sentence that you can give us for a takeaway?
From their speeches or just in general?
From you.
Right now, I'm a big proponent of self-care. We're living in very tumultuous times. So make sure you're taking the time for yourself. The drawback of being surrounded by so many motivational speakers is you're always like, rah, rah, go do it, be ambitious. But if you need to take that rest, take it. Do what feels right for you and for your body. If you need a nap, take a nap. Take the hot bath. Make that time for you. And remember, life is created from inside out. So don't let all the craziness get to you and suppress your beauty and what you want to do in your life. So take that time for the self-care. Very, very important right now.
Wow, I love it. Thank you so much, my beautiful Julie. I also took off last week and just spent with the children. This week I'm in full swing again, so I'm doing very well. Thank you for that. My beautiful Dar, you've got something inspirational to share for us, please?
Well, first of all I can say is, oh my goodness, I am just so thrilled to be friends with Valda. She was my speech coach, and I've learned so much from her in the way she expresses herself, allows her emotions to show. She's totally vulnerable, and we built a beautiful friendship. You and I, Sunita, built a beautiful friendship. We and Michael and Julie are in our group with our speakers group, and we're learning so much on how to love on ourselves and love one another. And Valda, this was just such a wonderful, even more knowledge of you presentation. I just loved it. I love your facial expressions and your caring for people. But to learn to listen well to other people and ask others questions rather than coming across as knowing everything, which I know I don't, but just to love on yourselves, like Julie said. I'm in agreement with Julie as well. We have great value to God. You all know that I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and he is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the true joy giver. And when we see how much he loves us, then our joy just starts to culminate inside of us, and we share hope and joy with others. People need joy today. People need love and encouragement. So yes, that's my speech. Thank you, Sunit. Thank you for doing what you're doing, hon.
Oh, thank you, my beautiful Dar. If I can go to you, I'm just going on the screen. Dolly, you next. You've got something inspirational for us?
Today was amazing. Thank you. I loved to live out loud, because I myself was taught to be quiet and not be seen. I didn't have a voice. I didn't have choice. And I've learned that I do have a voice and a choice. And I loved being reminded that I am created in the image of God. I wasn't created just to be in the background. There is a purpose for my life. And by me sharing with others, I can help so many. And I have 2 ears. So listening is so important, asking questions. So thank you both, Dr. Michael and Valda, for today. Bless you.
Wow, thank you so much, my beautiful Dolly. And I am super proud of you. I saw the interview with Ronnie. You two ladies were amazing. So thank you so much for that. If I can go then to Sarah. Sarah, you've got something
hello.
Inspirational for us?
Absolutely. Today was amazing. I was really taken by both messages that I received. The first one, don't be that clay, don't be that statue, so that we can speak out loud, get out there and expose ourselves and be vulnerable, so that we can try to do these new creative ideas that we're thinking of. So sharing in the creative ideas, exposing it, being vulnerable, and asking for help are the messages that came through for me.
Oh, thank you so much, my beautiful.
You're welcome.
And I'm so happy to see that you are looking good. I'm very happy. I will catch up with you this week. My beautiful, sorry. Oh, I missed you, my girl. You've got something inspirational for us?
I missed you too. And I must just say thank you so much to the two speakers, because those messages are just awesome. And what I got from it is love yourself and live your life unconditionally and care about other people. And I missed you, Sanet, and I'm so glad you're happy with your little ones.
Oh, my beautiful Sari, thank you. When Sari was playing with her grandchildren, I cried. And every time she sent me a video to show me my time will come, my time will come. And then I will tell her, oh, you made my day. So, sorry, here's the little one. Sê waar vir die mense? Waar vir die mense? He was crying this morning. I don't know what's happening. Oh, thank you. My beautiful, beautiful Jaisri, come and inspire us, my lady.
Gosh, where do I begin? I think first of all, thank you, Sanet, for doing this. We underestimate motivation. It's not a one-time thing. And I learned that, and it seems like, obvious, but I gained confidence and I was motivated, and then I lost it. And then I thought, is there something wrong with me? And I had to introspect, and I realized it's an everyday thing. And hi, Mary. Sorry, it's just that thinking about that story, and it got me a little emotional, the story that was shared by Valda. But we need, avenues like this, moments like this where we can share and just hear. I've been on this journey for this entire year, and it's ended so beautifully for me. I started up January looking for a logo for my business. And just this weekend, I finally decided on it, and it clicked. And it was through meeting wonderful, inspiring women like Sanet, and everybody here. I listened to the stories, and I believe that everything in this world happens by design. And if you're here for a reason, and there's a message for you. So, Charles speakers, thank you so much. From just your presentation to capture a message in just a short space of time and hold attention was amazing, in itself. And I picked up a lot. And I'm hearing about speech coaching, so I'm going to look into that. But yes, Dr. Michael, the story you shared, touching, beautiful. I believe all rivers flow into the same ocean. But Valda, the story of Sherazad has always been something that stuck with me. And for the first time in my life, I've heard somebody else mention it. And I'm not kidding you, I'm 38 years old. And throughout my entire life, nobody's heard that story for some reason. And I remember watching it when I must have been in primary school and being taken by it because I was very young. And it stuck with me. And I haven't been able to share because nobody, has experienced it. And they, it's like, oh, whatever, it's just some little story. But when you shared it, it also brought back a beautiful memory for me growing up. And I don't have many. So I was able to connect with my inner child. So thank you for that. And thank you for creating that space, Sanet, for it to happen.
Wow, thank you. And I know you're such a strong woman, and see you in tears made my heart overflow. Because like Valda said, vulnerability is also good. You don't have to be strong all the time. And you are strong for so many people, my beautiful Jazray. So thank you so much for your beautiful message. And if I can give it over to Ronnie. What can you inspire us, please, my beautiful one?
Hi, everybody. Hi, Sanet. Thank you so much. It's so beautiful to see you with your grandchildren finally together. And I'm glad that you are having a great time with them. And I would like to say thank you to Dr. Michael and to Valda for these two inspiring talks. And I really like first one point that Dr. Michael said. He talked about breathing, how we can't only exhale and exhale and exhale, but we need to take breath as well. So it's about not only giving, because we tend to give a lot as women. We give until we feel empty. So it's about giving out a breath, but learning to receive as well gracefully. So I think that's very important. Thank you, Dr. Michael. And Valda said to live out loud. And I can relate to that story because as a child, I was never able to speak up. I had to, every time I would try to talk, I would be asked to keep quiet, or at school and at home. It was everywhere like that. And now I can speak and now I feel free. It's like freedom. Yes. And you said also to not to give our power to others. And I have been doing that my whole life until quite recently. And then I keep thinking that I can't let others control my life, and it's time for me to take my power, because this is my life. It's not other people's life for them to decide what is good and bad for me. And I think when we have been through a lot of trauma, we become the people pleaser. We listen to others, but we don't listen to our own intuition and our own voice. So I would say it's very important to pay attention, to listen to what our inner voice. It will always guide us to the right direction. So thank you, everybody, for sharing. It's been amazing to be here for the last session of the year. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Sanet. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you, my beautiful Ronnie. And then Marilyn, I don't know, can you give us something inspirational, please?
Well, I got some sleep last night. I guess that's inspirational because I've been having trouble sleeping. I like your hat, by the way. And hello to your grandchildren. I found Thanksgiving weekend to be difficult because I have a sister and brother that don't talk to me, and I have a niece that's turning 5 this month. I don't even know when her birthday is. So I'm trying to focus on the things that I do have, like my niece in Israel, who's 7. But yeah. And I didn't wake up until 10:30, but I will at least say hello. See, I am here. And the Camp Christmas is last year's background, but I am participating in the program that's getting toys and bikes for foster children called Christmas is Not Canceled. So.
Thank you, my beautiful Madeline. Just to know that you came through today, it's just amazing. When I saw your picture coming up, I was like, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you so much for joining. So I know, Sarah, you said you still got something else to share. Please go ahead. Thank you.
I would love to share a little story and speak out loud, if that's okay with everyone. When COVID hit and we saw the changes occurring within the leaderships, the vulnerabilities that were exposed and the changes that came about, my story ties into, I was worried at that time about the mass population, thinking, well, how is that going to impact everyone else? And as time has gone on, even though through education and being with John Maxwell and other organizations, the focus has been so strongly on the leadership changes, the culture and the behavioral changes that we need to adapt to for our futures, because we're trying to connect more emotionally to ourselves and then to others. So we have that self-awareness and create the culture that we wish to create within an organization. The one missing link that I still would love to explore, and I'm exposing this with you guys because it's such an area I don't have the knowledge in, is how to create more of a peer-to-peer society instead of a leader-to-peer society. And I'm inspired by this, and Sanet is a perfect example, as well as most of you that I know on here. that is what you are doing. You are creating your own peer-to-peer. I would like to explore that a little bit further and see how that can become more of something larger, so that an average person can participate easily and get the support that they need in that right category. If it's a personal issue, if it's a business development, if it's a leadership development, staff or personal growth, you know. So that's just an idea, and I wanted to expose that. So I'm speaking out loud, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much, my beautiful Sarah. The little one doesn't want to go. He wants to stay with Omi. Oh, God, my Scott. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I want to say thank you so much for being here, everyone. I am gonna stop the recording